All righty, guys. Hello and welcome to the More Than Mindset live show. My guest today is Lynsey Landry, and we are going to talk all about energy. I like to say energy healing and heart opening and soul magic and alignment and all of the fun woo stuff. I'm going to let you introduce yourself on exactly what you do and who you are, instead of me doing it, just because I
Sure.
think it's fun to listen to other people.
So I am Lynsey Landry. I am an intuitive, energy intuitive, heart shaman, and I work with healers and soul-centered leaders who are ready to embrace their power and create more ease and flow in their business, relationship, and life.
And you are located.
I'm located in Louisiana. Do you want me to give like my web?
Yeah, yeah. Just kind of
Okay.
let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, so my website is my name, lynseylandry.com. And I have a Facebook community, Rise Together. And yeah, you could also find me. I wasn't prepared to do
Yeah,
this.
no, I'm not. That's not what I was talking about anyway. It's really,
Okay.
we'll do that at the end and it's all going to be tagged in the bottom. But I basically just wanted to get the jibs on what are you doing in Louisiana? How did you end up here? Where did you get where you're going? Like, give us the
Okay.
good stuff, not that stuff. That can be posted later. Tell us what's going on. Tell them who you are, and then they'll go find you.
So I was born and raised in Louisiana, and soon, hopefully, one day we'll find another place to land. But for now, the universe has us here. And yeah, so how did I get to where I am? When I was about 13 years old, I started to struggle with health issues, my weight, depression. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries. And um, at an early age, my mom started bringing me to doctors, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I always had this deep, what I call a deep knowing or a deep belly burn that there was something deeper. You know, what doctors were saying never resonated with me. I was kind of frustrated with the medical community, even at 13 years old. And that was really the spark of my journey and my whole path as a healer. And it led me to become a registered dietitian. I studied holistic healing. I studied mind body healing. And then I guess probably around 2009, 2008, 2009, that's whenever energy healing came into my life. And it was like love at first experience. Um, After my first session, literally magic and miracles felt like it was happening. I got called and offered a job that I didn't even apply for. And I was still in my internship. So that was a pretty big deal for me. I noticed my relationship shifted without me doing anything. And I was just like, I have no idea what this is, but I know I need more of it in my life. And so, I just from there began learning everything that I could about energy and just really soaking in as much as I could. And I mean, still today, I find myself still exploring it and learning as much as I can about different things. So
So can you take me back to the point where you found energy? Because you was like, oh, it just came into my life.
it did. It
Like,
really did.
right. So what did that look like though? What was the before and after? So you're like, so what's going on? And then you hear about it. And then, so I think that's
Well,
an important
I
part.
was in my internship for dietitian, and I was mentoring under two naturopathic doctors at the time. So all throughout school, I was studying holistic healing, how to use herbs and supplements, essential oils, all those things to heal the body. And so this was around 2008, and someone called me for a session, and I didn't have an office. Um, and she had an office. She was a massage therapist. And so I was in Breaux Bridge, she was in Baton Rouge, and I was like, I'll drive to you. I was so excited to have a client, right? I was like, I'll drive to you and do the session. And so I did. And she wanted a nutrition session because they were vegetarian and she wanted to know how to incorporate enough protein for her kids. And so I went and did a session for her, and I asked her what she did, and she was like, I'm a massage therapist and I do this thing, energy work. And I'm like, what is that? And I was really curious. And she was like, well, it helps people with stress and their relationships. And I said, I think I need that.
There's Dart massage therapists. They put all that stuff out there. You got to watch them.
And so I said, I think I need that. I want to schedule a session with you. And so I did. And so I remember my first session was on Valentine's Day. Oh. Yeah. And I had no idea what to expect, but I did know that I needed it. And she did like chakra healing. And so, I was laying on the massage table, and as she was going through my chakras, she was sharing with me things that she noticed, and everything that she was saying was like so on point. And it was like she was reading my soul. She was reading my body and reading my soul, and things that I don't typically tell people, but yet had been a thing. And I was just like, oh my God, yes, yes to this. And yeah,
the rest is history, right?
rest is history.
It's like you can't erase an experience like that. I agree. It's like I'm like, there's no way you can convince me that it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can we share this with, like, how can we educate? How can we get more people engaged? How can we get more people to understand what it is and how important it is? Because it's right there along with all of the mindset stuff and everything else. That's the whole term of this channel is more than mindset. It is, yeah, we have thoughts, but there's a lot more going on beyond the mind. And the thoughts are creating so many things in our life that we're not aware of. So bringing you on to really have that conversation about the power of energy work. But more than that, I love the way you simply explain it and make it not so scary. Because like your massage therapist said, well, because in school, when we're in massage therapy school, it is like not craniosacral. They're like, they kind of want to throw it out the door. It's like all that woo stuff. And if you think about massage therapists back in the day, that's your massage therapists that are 30 years in or so. That's what they based their whole entire business and lives and everything on. Like that's kind of what got it started, until it became, how do we want it, homogenized or like organized or governed, kind of thing. So what was your experience getting off of the table? So you go there, you're giving her a session, you're excited, she wants nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh my God, I actually think I know what you want. I mean, I think I want what you have. And so you get a session.
I don't remember exactly what I felt, getting off the table that first session, but I was pretty just like in awe, in wonder. And yeah, like I said, the next day, I got a job interview that I didn't apply for. So that was a pretty big deal for me. I started to see the little glimpses of magic and miracles and the coincidences. And, it just felt really real. And I did a lot of work with her too. I was still experiencing like some health issues. My stomach, I had a lot of stomach issues and different things. And I noticed after energy sessions, my stomach would not hurt anymore. And so that was like real evidence for me too, when I was noticing it in my physical body as well, like noticing and in my relationships, huge relationship shifts that, again, there's no logic to the and with money, I mean, I've been doing energy work for a long time. So I've had moments where, I get an energy session and literally get off the table, and I have clients that message me during the session wanting to pay me, so yeah, that was enough evidence for me of something was happening, even if I didn't completely understand what was happening.
That was my next question for you, is the tangibility, the tangible evidence, and how that weighed on your decision to, like, to believe it, to, because really it is, it's what's the word that I'm thinking of, placebo. It's like, if we believe it, we can it for sure is. It's really, beliefs are so powerful. And
Mhm.
I have experienced so many people who write it off right away, like, because it can't be proven, because it's not logical, because you can't grab it. And I'm like, it's kind of like this whole integrative program that I teach. It's all experiential. Like, it's actually the process, of it. And I feel the same way about energy work. So what do you run into, or what do you experience with people who are questioning you for the first time? They're like, oh, I think I want this energy work stuff, or I've heard about energy work, but I don't, like, how would that work for me? Or do you run across that?
I would say the place where I am at now in my business, not so much. A lot of the people that I work with are energy healers, or they have experience to a depth of it, and they're wanting to go deeper into it. And so I
How
don't really
about
experience it as much. But when I first started, you know, offering energy healing, so I started my business as a dietitian, and then I would say around 2013 um, I knew that I needed to make the switch and, start doing energy work. It was like burning inside of me. Like I had to do it. And I was desiring it. Like nutrition just was not lighting me up anymore. I was, kind of depressed and just, I needed the thing that was really calling me. And I remember, back then, um, in Louisiana, we have a lot of Catholics, and it's a little taboo or woo woo here. And yeah, that was a little more challenging because, people didn't quite understand. And so one of the ways that I tried to explain it is, you know, every living thing has energy, it has life force, right? And when we talk about energy, our mind, when we talk about mindset, our mind is a type of energy. Our heart is a type of energy. So even when we say open hearted, that's one of the energy pillars. Or emotions. Emotions are simply energy in motion. Each emotion has a different energetic signature. So we have mental, emotional energy. We have physical energy, the physical body. If you have ever worked out, when you work out and you get energy flowing, sometimes that might make you sore, or maybe you start to detox because the energy is pushing other energy that's in your body, moving it around, right? It's moving. And so, mental, emotional, physical, and then we have spiritual energy, which, the spiritual can go into multiple different layers, but we all have our connection to the divine, whether that's, you know, the divine up there, or for some people, the divine is in the earth, in the earth realm where it's connecting with nature and connecting with life through nature. But we all have this, divine connection. And so this spiritual connection. And, um, I think when we think of it in this way, right, like it's, it's just the different layers of our connection to ourself. It doesn't have to be something so woo woo. And even, one thing, I grew up Catholic, and, we're taught the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is within each of us. And so when we really begin to grasp that, God is within each of us. And so for me, energy work is a way to connect back to that part of myself, that part of the life force, the spirit, the God within me, and clearing my vessel, clearing myself of patterns, thoughts, emotions, to where I can create space for more of that life force to flow through me and to use me, to use me in my business, to use me in conversations like this, and in whatever way it desires to use me.
however that looks.
Yeah.
So let's go into the heart opening, the heart healing, and the heart magic. Kind of, I know it's like we're talking about soul magic, but as we're moving through it, I'd like to really come into this, the shall we say, the byproduct of opening the heart or allowing the heart to receive, and access to that through energy work.
Yeah. So, the heart is our portal between our soul and also the physical body. And so when we think of that, to me, it's also the portal for us to really tap into who we are on a soul level. What is the magic that we hold? And also, the heart is the place where we as an individual can meet the world. Um, so it's like once we tap into our essence, our soul self, our divine self, it's the place where that version of us can meet the world, or whatever version of us can meet the
Good.
world. And so I think that, for me, my heart, I've had so much protection around my heart because we have all these stories, that if we open our heart, we might be hurt. Or, um, I think we all have our own signatures of, um, I call them core woundings of like what our story is that might be wrapped up around our essence, So, um, for me, it was if I go into my heart, I might lose myself. I might lose myself to my heart energy because, my heart is so big and so vast that sometimes I lose boundaries and, there's so much
That's so
love.
good.
Like I see the highest potential in someone, and then that could be really dangerous, right? If
For
they're not
sure. For sure.
available for it. And so, yeah, I had a lot of, and also I'm pretty sensitive. And so, the more I've unraveled and healed, what I can even see is like going back to that 13-year-old girl with, the PMS and the womb problems. I can see that that was just me feeling energy on a really deep level and having no idea what I was feeling, right? Feeling everybody around me, everything around me, feeling the collective. And so when you're that sensitive, of course you close off your heart because we're trying to protect ourselves. It's a protection mechanism. Um, and to reopen our hearts, a lot of times we have to um, be willing to unravel the stories, unravel the stories and experience something different, open ourselves to experience something different. And even, um, what comes to me, I don't know the exact words, but that Marianne Williamson quote where she's saying, like, we're basically more afraid of our power than we
Power, yeah.
are.
Our light, not our darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, it's our light, right? Because, too, like, if we're in our heart, then what? Then what's going to happen? Maybe a lot of people are going to want your energy or going to want to talk to you. Or, that's been one of my stories in my business. Like, if I'm truly in my heart, like, maybe a lot of people are going to want things from me, and that can feel like, in the past it's felt really overwhelming for me. So that's been different layers I've had to personally work through around that.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the heart knows no boundaries. Like the heart just loves.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just essence of love. If we allow, like if we use and we break through those barriers and just allow our heart to expand into like really embrace, and like I relate so much to what you said about the like truly seeing the highest potential and trusting and loving and wanting to be that, because that is the essence of who we are. Like naturally without the rules of the world and the stories and the things that close us down. And yet the times where we're the most vulnerable and the most giving and the most in there is, it's so painful because there was no shield.
Mm-hmm.
There was no shield. It's like I was, giving everything, even if it was as a youngster or even today, but just giving everything and feeling that, I'll call it like this soft quiver within the center of the heart. It's like this you can feel the throbbing of the love there, and it's wide open for wounding. Because when you're giving from that boundaryless love and
Mm-hmm.
just wanting it for everyone, and someone can't meet you there, they can't see or they can't trust, and their story comes up, then the darts and the accusations that they throw pierce inside of that. And it has been, like in my experience, so painful. And I know recently I felt that openness and that expansiveness. And when the threat came or when the spear started, I had a visual of these huge doors, like these castle
Mm-hmm.
doors closing, like, and I could literally feel myself not like, don't close them back, don't close them back, it's okay to feel this. And can you're just like, don't you think that is possibly the fear of why we don't want to fully open our hearts and fully love? Because like that the mind wants to create that protection. Like I was in the dissonance of
Totally.
it.
Well, it is. The mind does want to create the protection. And often when we get to that place of vulnerability, like, and we open and expand, it's natural for us to respirate. So there might be like a level of contraction. And sometimes in that contraction where we begin to feel vulnerable, that's when the protections want to come up. And, you know, from my experience, um, the heart is able to include it all.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about not feeling the vulnerability or feeling the pain or the discomfort.
Or
It's
even that
about
it's unsafe, right?
right, or
Yeah.
even that it's unsafe, because the heart has space for all of it, and even anger. You know,
For
when
sure.
I was first learning to open my heart, the I was in ceremony, and I had this vision of the mama lion, and I was seeing her love and her compassion for her cubs. And then I was also seeing where she gives them boundaries and she tells them no.
Yeah.
And the vision that I was getting was her like bathing her little cubs, and then that part where like the little puppy or the little cat, they're like aggravating their mom, and she
Right.
like whacks them, or she like tells them no. And yeah, I was seeing that and I was like, oh, okay. So the heart, yes, it's soft and it's sweet, and also it can be fierce.
Yeah.
It's the mama lion telling her cubs no, or protecting them from something that isn't safe or doesn't feel right. And recently, in all this pandemic stuff, that's been something I've really been playing with. Like giving myself permission to like kind of be angry, and to be angry at the way that people are showing up. And like, yes, I love them and I love us as humanity and humans, right? And like, get your shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
All
love,
of it.
right?
All
Like
of it.
it's
Yeah.
actually okay to
Well, and I
know.
think the
It's
risk
the
was,
wisdom of knowing when, right? Like, and I think probably any mom, like you probably struggle with this, as I would think as a mother, like knowing when to give your children a lot of space and permission, and then knowing when to tell them, like, actually, no, it's time to XYZ. And I
get
think,
your shit together.
yeah, and when we can really enter into our heart space, from my experience, the heart can be a lot like that.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was so interesting, and I've probably noticed this more in, I don't know, I'd say the last year for sure, is the awareness of when it's happening and what this like that and it's like, don't want to go back to that. I don't like, I want to be in the feeling unsafe and feeling safe and the feeling of all of it. Like that one's not better than the other. Like pain is not better than joy, and one is not. It's they're
Right.
actually just the flip side, and they're the contrast. But being able to, like in this particular time, notice the pull was so like those doors were so big and were so closing, and I was like, actually, no, like no, like it was. I noticed it in a different kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
um, more in a by closing off that, we close off the rest. There's no just turning off that one pain or turning off that one hurt or turning off that one thing, right? It stops the flow of all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
the ability to be able to stay in that openness and that vulnerability and allow the heart to tremble and to love and to crack and to heal, like all at the same time. How did you speak on that? It's,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it can be intense. You know, I think anytime we're working anything energetically, there's layers. So whether we're working the mindset, whether we're working heart energy, soul energy, and one thing that feels important is like you're never going to go to a place that you're not ready to go,
yeah.
because that's our own safety mechanism. So I just kind of want to give that some safety to those that are listening. Like, you're not going to just have this huge, big opening that you're not ready for or you're not prepared for, because your system is much wiser than that, you
Yes.
know? And so anything that comes forward for you, you are ready for it. Your soul is ready for you to have it or to experience it. And one thing that I've seen for myself is in my heart healing, more recently, I would say, um, so my heart began to get that cracked open, the vulnerable. You kind of know about my last year, but I'll just say a little brief. So in August, James lost his job. We lost our dog. Then we went through a moving process in October, and then um, we moved into a new home in November. In January, we got kicked out of that home. Then the day we moved into our new home, my James's grandpa died, our cat died, and then a couple days later, my grandmother died. And so this was a big, like, all of those things that you just named, my heart was experiencing every single level of them. Um, and I think throughout that process, what really came to me was I was being brought to this really big surrender of surrendering
Mm,
my heart to the divine,
yeah.
and trusting the divine on probably the deepest level I've ever trusted. And I had my mind could not make sense of anything that was happening, because I think often when we're going through a healing process, our mind really likes to track and likes to know what's happening or even sense of it. And I mean, I'm totally
Right.
like that, right? So
Right.
like after an energy session, I'm always looking for the signs and the validation of something happened, and like,
Yes.
is the thing that happened, where's the magic? And we were like literally in the ashes, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening. Maybe I literally lost my mind, and who knows? I don't know. And so but it's been the best thing ever,
Yeah.
where
There's
we've
something about
landed
having
at
to let
this
go.
camp, like, and being in nature has totally, like, I've been able to connect to a part of myself that I've been longing for a really long
Mm,
time. And even just this whole pandemic thing, like, of course we're on a lake, we have lots of space to like be outside, to my grandparents, I get to spend time with them. So there's so many blessings. And if I would have gotten caught up in my mind during all of that, it would have been a disaster. Like, I really had to surrender to my heart and just trust the mystery of where the divine was leading me and taking me.
Yeah, I love the phrase I use pretty much daily is I'm willing to be surprised. Like when I wake up in the morning, it's like I'm willing to be surprised what this day holds. And it's that ability to surrender which allows the surprise to come through, which is exactly what you're describing, which I know why we have to be forced into that allowing and surrender because there's always a gift. It's always, I think about the reason I think I like to fly so much is because when I get to the airport and log in, like you're at their mercy. There's nothing more you can do. Like the pilot's in charge, everybody's like moving you like cattle, and there's I love that. I love that I don't have to be in control. I don't have to be the boss. I don't have to be like there's just something about sitting in that seat and they're just going to take care of everything, even though it's at, I'm at their mercy. But I think it's surrender. I think about the
Yeah,
just
and another aspect of the heart that I just want to name is, so one of the ways that the heart opens is through experience. And the heart is all about experiencing. And so, in the mindset community, a lot of times we pick goals and we visualize and we start to work our way to success. Well, if we don't fully, so say like, okay, I don't know what a good example is. I'm confident. Let's just say that. Okay. So, or I'm receiving. Like, if we're using that, if part of us doesn't really believe that, like on an experiential level,
right.
it's going to be really challenging to create that opening in your system. And so sometimes, our hearts, I mean, and we can choose experiences. We can choose experiences like signing up for coaching or signing up for energy work. And when we're in that energetic space, it gives us the energetic imprint to where we've had the experience on an energetic level. And then once we've had that energetic experience, we can have a different experience in the 3D realm, right? But if we don't have that energetic experience of whether it's surrendering to the divine or maybe receiving, so some of all that happened for me, me and my boyfriend have been in this process of finding our co-creation. So it's one thing when you're manifesting and creating by yourself, which I do pretty well. But when you're in a relationship with somebody and we were in this moving process and we were trying to figure out where we wanted to go together and how to do it together. And so some of, I think, the destruction that happened was really for our relationship. And so to bring us together and to teach us some of those things. And um, we needed to experience it. We needed to have the experiences so that we could also have, the contrast, going back to that duality of what you said, like the pain and the joy, like one is not better than the other. And sometimes when we have the jolt, it actually opens us to be able to have the contrasting experience. So the day that we got kicked out of our house, like me and James were so connected. We were in divine union. Like, I don't know if we've ever felt that close in our entire 10 years of being together. And we got that imprint, right? Like,
We're in this all the way in this together. Like
totally. We are
so
so in
good.
this together. And like all that mattered in that moment was us, right? Together.
Yes.
It didn't
I
matter
love
what.
that.
And so, yeah, what a blessing.
You wouldn't have been able to experience that if everything else wouldn't have fallen around. Like that's so beautiful. I love that.
Totally. We had to shed our armor, right? Shed our armors, shed our protections, and get to this place of um, being in the hands of the divine and
Together.
letting ourselves feel that embrace of each other.
That's really nice. I know with my husband right now, like my family, I'll say it's like we have like 32-year history together, and right now is this exactly like this something we've not experienced before. And I was like, since when do I want to tell my husband everything first? Like, where did this come from? Like, since when can we relate? And I was like, you need to be my mindset coach. Like, I actually have been watching him and listening, and I was like, have you been trying to teach me all this time? He's like, oh yeah. I was like totally resistant, couldn't receive any of it. And now he's like my workout partner. He's like my fitness trainer. And he's like, and this whole pandemic has been the best thing ever because we had gotten to that space and then it gave us like that lull of it. So it's like we've
Mhm.
gotten there and now we're just like swinging in it and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And we're looking at our children at what like co-creation, what has come from our 30 years together. And now we're seeing it with the grandkids. And now I was like, so I think I'm relating to what you're saying on that part,
Mhm.
that when the worst diagnosis or the worst case scenario, the crisis happens, there's something where it magnetizes and you have that. And when you have that, then everything else kind of getting on the airplane. Everything else is just what it is.
Yes.
Love that. I want to make sure we get to the last part. I'm watching the time. Thank you for sharing that. I think that really made it all so yummy, especially
Mhm.
for those who are working because relationships are so tricky.
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you're growing a business, because that's been the thing between me and James too, this power dynamic, right? Of like, am I choosing my business over him and blah, blah, blah.
so much noise,
Yeah, for
so much
sure.
noise. So I want to talk about like this soul magic container, like because we got to all of the other parts, but like to bring it all together in what you wanted to
Mhm.
speak on, and just the part that comes to me and the question that I want to get you to speak on is kind of like I'm saying, like the heart was so big and had no boundaries and just was like this wobbly, flowy kind of just love. Like I have so much love for everyone to do it. Like, can you talk about how our soul is so much bigger? Because we're kind of bringing the Marianne Williamson poem in, and it's kind of the same thing. Like we are so bright, and our essence is so powerful and strong, and sometimes it feels like it's hard to contain it in the physical realm. Like it's hard, like it just wants to float and fly and have wings. It's like, hold on, we're in the material world here. There's rules in the material world compared to the kingdom in heaven, right? There's like two different, it's like playing soccer and playing baseball. The rules
Yeah.
beyond the mind, the rules in the energy and in the quantum field are different from the material and tangible. So how does someone who like has really tapped into that divine and feels like they're in that essence. I want to talk about like containing and yet still having soul magic and just being in that ebb and flow in both.
So are you talking about like in business or relationships or
Whichever
just
one you want to go to. I just wanted to open the door for whatever
well,
comes through you.
what comes up to me is I believe that people are always going to be mirrors and reflections for us. And so when we can begin to see ourselves as a soul and everyone as a soul, we can create a little more space like for compassion for both, right? For ourselves and others. And what I've experienced is um, sometimes we're going to have an interaction that brings out our magic. And then sometimes we might have an interaction that um, leaves us feeling like frustrated, or maybe like we did move, say, okay, we felt a nudge in our, like in our business,
Yep.
or like to offer something, right? Like I'm supposed to do this. I know I'm supposed to
This
do
is
it.
it.
This is the thing. I'm feeling called. Or maybe it's like moving into the house, right? Like, so me and James, we had the conversation before we moved into the house. We knew that there was some things, but also it really felt like we were supposed to move there,
Right.
right? And so when we do this kinds of thing, um, usually it's like a soul thing. And so that doesn't mean you're going to get what you want
Or what you think the payoff is, right?
or what you think the payoff is. Sometimes you do, and sometimes it's magical and beautiful, and you get to experience yourself that way. And then sometimes maybe you do the offering and you don't get as many signups as you want, or maybe you get the people in your mastermind and then it's really challenging, or maybe you
Yeah.
move into the house and then you don't get to stay there, right? And so what my experience is, it actually gives you the opportunity to embody more of who you are. And by that, so through, ooh, I can, so if I use the example of the house thing, when the landlord started to go into her story and her protection mechanisms, I actually found my groundedness and was able to speak some truth that usually I don't speak. And so in that moment, I was able to experience myself. I can use the example of a business. Maybe, it's the offer is more challenging than I thought it was going to be. And, maybe there's some resistance and different things. Well, the way that I show up, if I'm willing to really be in it, um, it's allowed me to open my heart more to myself, and also to um, see my capacity of how strong I am, right? And so, yeah, it's a little bit tricky, but when we're willing to do these things and to move forward in whatever's being given to us, all of life is for us. And when we really can see that it's not good or bad or right or wrong, it's for us and it's creating us just as much as we're creating it, and we can say yes to it, it gives us the opportunity to let that energy begin to flow through us. And in that, also our soul can come more, into our bodies. We can embody more of who we really are
Yeah.
through that
We're
process.
on board.
Yeah,
It's like when the thing's not the thing. So when you get the thing, but it's not the thing you thought it was going to be that you signed up for.
totally.
And it ends up
And,
being the thing that gave you the breakthrough or gave you the next level or yeah,
exactly. It got you to the thing that you really wanted, even though maybe you didn't get what you wanted in that moment.
it didn't look the way it was supposed to look in my mind, but it
Kind of
was
like a
so much better.
workout, right? Like when you're working out, and we did P90X today for the first time in months. So in the moment, you're like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, right?
This is not what it was going to look like.
But after enough times, you start to get toned and you're like, oh, we're going where I wanted to go.
Yeah, yeah. When we can truly be in it. There was something that came to mind that I wanted to ask you when you were talking, and I changed my batteries and forgot what it was. I think maybe it's mostly that the soul magic, like bringing the pieces together just for our conversation. Here that you spoke of is that knowing what energy work is, the benefits of what they are, understanding how we protect our hearts and the reasons behind it, and how the open heart actually allows all of this to become the soul magic, like that's to
Yeah.
become the
And when
experience.
we realize that all of life is for us. So even if I have a rigid interaction with you, that is for me. And it's for you too, right? So if I really can receive that and open to that, then I can open to what's wanting to move through me.
100%. When we don't get attached to it's personal, it shouldn't have
Totally.
happened. It's there. I think that's where I use the four agreements. Like I always come back to the four agreements, with not taking anything personal and not making assumptions and being willing to sit in the discomfort of whatever the interaction is and say, can we explore here? Like what's here for us? But not everyone's on the capacity to be able to have that
Right.
conversation or to receive that. And I think that's where the pain has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's what we're being asked to do, to just be and feel, and through feeling. So even if it's pain or anger or something that we don't see as like a sexy feeling,
Yeah.
we're actually, through our willingness to do it, we're transmuting the energy. And so um, sometimes that is the thing.
Yeah. That's the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and we're like 6 minutes away. So I'll just give you the space. Is there anything that you want to share about energy work? Maybe clarifying it for someone who has no idea what it is, or just what it's been for you, or just Something you'd want them to know that I didn't ask you.
Um, I feel like I want to pull a card.
Go for it. Let's pull a card. So here's the gift for everyone who is listening. And guys, we're going to stop this in about five. As soon as she's done with that, we're going to stop it. So hold on if you have questions, because once we kill the live, um, we'll take it off a recard and you'll have the opportunity to come on and ask questions or just post in the chat right now. And we'll get them answered for you. So you can use the chat box. Ah, the beaver.
The beaver. Interesting. So, yeah, so what's coming to me with the beaver is just how much, beavers are like workers. They build their dam, um they're busy as a beaver, And I guess what's coming forward is like, yes to that. I think it is really important to do the work. And also, when we learn how to use energy and use soul alignment and use alignment, we don't have to work so hard. We can allow, again, this life force to move through us and to move through our work, to move through our offerings. And that becomes the magnet. That becomes the magnet that helps you to call in the clients you need. It helps to call in the situation you need, the support you need, whatever it is you need. And I did a post on this recently, but some people say, like, I don't have money for coaching, or, how do I do this if I don't have the time or the resources or whatever? And like, I've been there, and using energy work, using truly this, like, tapping into my desire of what I want and what I know is for me and what is being asked of me, I've attracted people to trade with. I've attracted people to support me at the perfect divine timing. And by using, aligning ourselves, we will have everything that we need in whatever capacity it is. And so you don't have to work so hard.
And I think just truly believing, like I just believe if it's just available, like it just is.
Yeah.
And, getting smack that lined up with that and bringing in the belief, the understanding, logical and illogical, because that's the hardest part, is knowing that we are so tapped in. I
Mm.
don't think we take advantage of that resource. So is there, yeah, I mean, unless you have something else, I'm going to just kind of let them know where they can find you. We'll post it in the show notes. And does anyone have questions? I'm going to go ahead and take this off of live. I want to thank you so much for coming on. It
Thank you
was
for
fun.
having me.
I love having these chats. I'm going to take it off a stop live stream for the YouTubers.